Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Ed Randall's Talking Rams. Here on this video series, we are paying tribute to those men and women, members of the Athletic Hall of Fame, who distinguished themselves on the field of play and brought honor to Fordham University. We hope you'll pass the word about this video series to all your friends in the Fordham community and have them tune in. We continue our series of conversations with the 1996 inductee into our Hall of Fame, who was one of the most successful swimmers, divers, and water polo players in school history. A four-year starter, he was named All-East at two different positions during his career while earning letters in both swimming and water polo all 4 years at Fordham. He served as captain in 1978 and 1979, the year he established records as a swimmer and led the Rams to a number 8 national ranking. A year after graduating in 1980, he returned as an assistant coach before being elevated to head coach from 1982 through 1989. His teams won 5 Met titles and 1 Mid-Atlantic championship. And how about this? In 1996, he became the second generation in his family welcomed into our Hall of Fame, joining his father, a fellow water polo player who was inducted 9 years prior. We welcome back to Fordham one of the elite swimmers in school history, whose plaque from 1996 you can see in the Rose Hill Gymnasium, Christopher Judge. Chris, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. You personally never hit 62 home runs in a season like Aaron Judge, but then again, Aaron Judge can't possibly swim like you do.
I'm not sure how good a swimmer he is, but I certainly could not hit that. I couldn't hit the slider, that's for sure.
I'm guessing that Francis X. Judge, your father, was going to make sure you got wet. How old were you when you learned how to swim?
I probably won my first medal in the old pool at Fordham on, I guess it was Alumni Day when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. It was the width of the old pool down in the basement there. I think it's now the football locker room or something. But yeah, so very early on, threw us in the water and got us going.
um, Tell us about your life before Fordham. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in New Rochelle, right by New Rochelle High School. Attended Holy Family and then Blessed Sacrament, and right on to Fordham. And my older sister Peggy also attended Fordham, so there were actually three of us in a row. My younger sister Loretta, we were all there at the same time, so it was a family affair for sure. Both of my sisters were on the swim team as well, so we spent a lot of time around the pool.
So there was really no question about the fact that you were not going to go to Fordham.
Well, I always had my heart set on going to Fordham. Like I said, I used to go. My dad was actually a coach, and I went to practice with him as a youngster. Um, I like to say I started out as a ball. The guys would throw me around the pool, and it was just a lot of fun. So, um, and in high school, I started swimming for the Gator Swim Club, which worked out at Fordham. Became good friends with Chuck Felice, and it was an easy transition right from high school to college.
It can be said your family is really, given your father and his achievements and coaching and you coaching, you're the first family of swimming at Fordham University.
Well, we have put in a lot of miles. My son Alex also played water polo at Fordham. Um, so we've got 3 generations going through to Fordham.
Wow. Do you remember your first day on campus ever? And it was probably long before you became a student at Fordham.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, through high school, I used to come down and swim um, at Fordham under the Gator swim program. It was always interesting. I was a skinny little kid, and all these big guys, the swim team and the water polo team were always there. It's the same coach, so their practices and our practices overlapped a little bit, and every now and then they jumped in with us on a Saturday morning.
What makes a good swimmer?
What makes a good swimmer? I guess you have to be comfortable with your own thoughts because you spend a lot of time not talking to anybody. Back and forth. There's a lot of mileage you have to put in. Um, I guess it's like any other sport. You have to be dedicated to be good. I mean, there are a lot of talented guys that and gals that don't really make the grade because they don't put in the time and effort. So you have to have both. You have to have some talent and you have to have a lot of desire to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and jump in a pool.
Mm. Because of your father's reputation, did you feel pressure to succeed?
No, no. I mean, he was always about having fun, you know. It was a lot of fun watching him play. He went on to play at the New York Athletic Club, and I went to a lot of those practices, and we always went to his games, and it was always a great bunch of guys, and they always had a lot of fun. There was a lot of social activities involved, and everybody's kids got together. So we made a lot of friends over the years with a lot of his teammates, and it was always about having fun with a bunch of good guys, and so it was never pressure to advance to the next level. That was pretty much me.
Do for those who aren't familiar with the sport, uh, do most swimmers, all swimmers, are they always swimmers, divers, and water polo players, or do they, or are there those with specializations?
No, actually, there's many more swimmers than there are water polo players, but it's like you can't play basketball if you can't run up and down the court either. So you have to be able to swim. Um, so it's just part of it. The fact that I could swim well made it a little bit easier for me to set the pace in the water. But it was it was it was really a love of both sports. And then once I started throwing the ball around, swimming kind of took a back seat. But growing up, it was more swimming. There were no water polo players. There were no water polo teams for youth teams when I was growing up. So it was all swimming. And it wasn't until I got to Fordham that I started playing water polo.
Mhm. What was the greatest satisfaction for you personally as a competitor?
Well, it was great to be on the national team. I mean, working with some of the best athletes in the country, you know, on our U.S. national team. It was a great thrill. Happy to have participated with it, and I'm always grateful, you know, to have that opportunity. And it's always a lot of fun when you're playing with really good players around you. You know, it
Mhm.
makes everybody a little bit better.
When you came to Fordham, what school were you in at Fordham?
Uh, the what was it? CBA, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, the College of Business Administration,
Right.
as it was once called. And did you know what you wanted to major in when you began class?
I did. I was an accounting and a finance major. So I certainly wanted to go into business end of things. Um, it just seemed like a good fit. A lot of the guys on
Hmm.
the team were doing the same thing, so there was a lot of mentorship from the older swimmers and polo players.
Hmm. Favorite subject was what?
Um, I guess it was really a toss-up. Probably some of the finance classes were the best,
Hmm.
but you know.
Least favorite subject. Least favorite subject.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say
Um,
it. It's okay.
I probably I didn't want to take art history. So if you went to CBA, you didn't have to take art history. So I kind of sidestepped that one.
Was there a professor, Chris, who inspired you and made a lasting impression?
Wow. Um, I can't say of it as a professor, no. It there were a lot of good professors, but really the one that inspired me was my water polo coach, um, Jerry Gillia. He was a great man, and it was great having my father around all the time, and then I had Jerry looking over my other shoulder, so I couldn't get away with a whole lot in college, although I tried. But between the two of them, they kept me on track.
What was your favorite building, or what is your favorite building on campus?
Oh, it's always been the pool. That goes without saying. Spend a lot of time there. It's a great facility. Um, now it's getting dated. I actually was the first class in to use the Lombardi Center, to use the new
Hmm.
pool as it was back then. So it was great.
And what did you think, Chris, when you heard that there were plans to build a Lombardi Center and a larger pool? What did you think?
Well, I was in high school and working out in the dungeon, as we used to call it. And they started construction in the back, and we had always done dry land out there. So, they pretty much took away our field. And the coach back then, Joe Burnell, had us start running through the botanical gardens, which was kind of nice. But it was nice to be able to just pull into the back behind the gym and work out on that. It was just a field back then. And so it was exciting watching them build it. We got the tour before there was water in the pool. We were all looking forward to it, and so it was a very exciting time to go in. And we were kind of early because you come back early, start working out. So none of the other students were there yet or anything. So it was a good time.
So what was that first day like when the pool opened and you're in there? Uh, I can imagine it must have been just a glorious day after having been in, as you called it, the dungeon.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of excitement building up into getting into the water, and then Coach Burnell said, "Okay, we're going to go 10,000 yards," and everyone's like, "Oh, geez, this is the same thing." So, and the work still had to be done, and it was just a nicer facility.
um, where did you live through the years at Fordham as a student?
I started my first year in Martyrs Court, which was great. I have a lifelong friend in Tom Cavanaugh that wound up being my roommate. He was a basketball player for Fordham as well. Um, and then the next year, the two of us got a room over in 555. And after that, we went our separate ways. And I went off campus and had my own apartment. And he became, I think he was an RA. He got his own room. So after that, I was over on the Hughes Avenue part of town, and
Hmm.
quite happy to be off campus. It was just easier back then to have my own apartment and come and go, and there was no restriction as to who could stay on campus or anything because I was off campus, so it worked out well for
Hmm.
me.
And so because of that, you didn't have the privilege of eating the cafeteria food.
I avoided the cafeteria at all costs. I actually don't mind cooking at all. So I even in my freshman year and sophomore year, I did not have a meal plan at all. I cooked on a hot plate in Martyrs. Back you could do that back then. I had a refrigerator and a hot plate, and um and then 555 we had obviously the kitchen and everything. So it was always cook my own food because I was always eating, and cafeteria just wasn't going to do it.
Favorite hangout your years at Fordham?
Oh, well, the Lantern was always good.
Hmm.
The bar across the street. But I gotta say, I guess Clark's was my favorite because that's where my now wife was a bartender way back when, Allison Hendry. Uh, Met a pretty little girl behind the bar, and that was good enough for me. So,
Did you work any jobs while you were at Fordham?
um, not at Fordham, but I had an older brother that we were painting contractors all through college, and we quite often would hire the guys on the team would help out with different jobs that we had. So we were always hustling, and by being self-employed, I could manage my time a little bit better and go on all these excursions.
Do you remember your first event representing Fordham?
Yes, I absolutely remember it very, very well. We had a water polo tournament at Bucknell, and you have to remember that Joe Burnell was a great swim coach, not much of a water polo coach. And his idea of water polo practice was swim about 10,000 yards and have a catch. So we were not very proficient in water polo at the time. And the basic rules were give the ball to Joel or Chuck. And, a couple of the guys weren't even supposed to touch the ball. So we were already playing a couple of men down. And we went to Bucknell to play our first tournament, and we lost all 4 games. And Joe said, okay, that's it for the season. So we just started swimming on Monday. It was a very short season. He kind of, you know, he didn't really like water polo as much. So he got us right back into swimming. And then the following year, he took off for Harvard, and Ed Brennan came in and brought in Jerry Gillia. And that was a match made in heaven because we were all really excited to play water polo and actually learn learn how to play as a group. So it was a great time.
What would you say was your favorite, diving, swimming, or water polo?
Well, I quit diving as a kid. I only dove for a few years in high school, but certainly water polo. Water polo has been the best. I went on to play many, many years. I just recently stopped playing. So
Hmm. There was really no period of time, Chris, it seems, where you got comfortable at Fordham because Fordham was in your blood. It was in your DNA because of your family's history. Unlike a lot of other athletes that we've spoken to in this series that have come to Fordham from other places and needed some time to get acclimated, you didn't have that because you had spent so much time at Fordham, and Fordham was so much such a very important part of your family.
that's true. And I always had a good time going down to Fordham, whether it was through high school, my friends on the swim team, and then in college. And then when Jerry had to step down, I was happy to help out as much as I could and wound up taking over the program through the 80s. And it was just a lot of fun to see these young guys come through and teach them how to play the game. And unfortunately, the way it goes in college sports, as soon as they figure out what to do, they're seniors. So so it's an ongoing love love uh, dynamic there that you have to just keep plugging along. And I always say you got to say the same thing 1,000 times because the faces look very similar, but it's a new crowd every year. And but for the most part, there's a lot of great guys that go through Fordham and women, I'm sure. But the it was just I was happy to help out, happy to help the
Hmm.
guys see some good competition.
Hmm. Who would you say motivated you as an athlete beside yourself?
Well, Jerry Gillia was one of the key proponents there. He just encouraged me to be the best I could, all the time. And sometimes you needed to refocus on what you really had to work on. and he had a certain way about him, um, that he could get your attention pretty quickly.
Mm.